Okay, we are shortly going to be live on Facebook, on YouTube, where all these classes will be available afterwards. And again, I want to once again thank all those who are joining us, and especially I want to thank the various presenters for taking time out of their busy schedules, certainly on a day like today, and be able to teach us. So again, we are enormously appreciative. I want to welcome Mrs. Esther Grossman, who is joining us, obviously having taught in Weinbaum, at the time, Weinbaum Yeshiva High School here in Boca, made an incredible mark here. We are more closely familiar with her husband, Seth, who's here much more frequently. But Mrs. Grossman has quite a resume for herself. She grew up in Elizabeth, New Jersey, went to Mechala, and after moving to Israel, teaches in various seminaries, Midrashet Moriah, Benot Chayil, Nishmat, Shalvim for women, in addition to others. So we are very appreciative that you're joining us here today, that you've taken out of your time to share the Torah of the land of Israel with us. And without further ado, I will unmute her and make her the featured speaker. Please join in welcoming Mrs. Esther Grossman.
Hi everybody. This is real. Here you go. So I want to open with Poslim B'chvod Achsanya, which I feel like probably everyone's starting with, because there's such, there's such fond associations with having lived in Boca. We had 9 wonderful years there. Seth does indeed still keep our connection there very strong, and maintains a close connection with friends who we really consider like family. So it's really beautiful to be able, during this time of social distancing, when perhaps things could seem so far away, that we have an opportunity like this, that we really can be so close to one another. The ideas that I want to share are really Dvarim Hayotzim Min Halev Nechnasim El Halev, that they're really coming from the heart, and therefore I hope that they're able to enter your hearts as well. So in terms of an introduction to the shir and to the topic, I want to talk about what is the significance of today. What's the significance of Yom Ha'atzmaut? In some ways, marking one day specifically brings to mind people who question, like, why do we need a Mother's Day, or why do we need a Father's Day? What is the purpose of that? Aren't we supposed to honor and revere our parents every single day? And similarly, in terms of Yom Ha'atzmaut, aren't we appreciative of having the state of Israel, a government, an army, a court system? Isn't that something that we should be appreciative of every single day? So what singles out Yom Ha'atzmaut? What makes it something so unique and special? And I think there are two important goals that I have over the next couple of minutes that we learn together. And I think that number one, Yom Ha'atzmaut has to do with Hakaras Hatov, having gratitude for the gift of the state of Israel. And number two is the mission, or the desire to increase our love and passion for Israel. So it's Hakaras Hatov, and it's also Chavivat Haaretz, that is supposed to be, the land is supposed to be beloved to us. And the truth is, not every country has an Independence Day. France doesn't have an Independence Day. Canada does, America does, we're very familiar with those, but many countries don't have an Independence Day. And what's specifically unique about Israel's Independence Day is how it follows closely right on the heels of Yom HaZikaron. Many times in order to go from one day to the next, we have a Tekes Ma'avar that brings us from Yom HaZikaron into Yom Ha'atzmaut. And I heard a very beautiful explanation from Rabbi David Millstone, who's my boss at Midrashet Arova, and he says that when we recite Yizkar at the end of a holiday, it's remembering all those people that we've lost, that they should be a part of the Simchas HaChag, that they are supposed to be part of the Chag that we've been celebrating. It's at the end of the Yom Tov, it's Shavuos, it's the same day here in Israel, but in Pesach it's the second day, and in Sukkot it's the second day. At the end of the Chag, we then bring in those relatives who aren't with us to celebrate the Chag. Whereas it's just the opposite for Yom Ha'atzmaut. For Yom Ha'atzmaut, we start off with Yom HaZikaron, that we remember those who gave up their lives, either through acts of terror or through the army, as chayalim, and only through recognizing the sacrifices that were made can we then appreciate the gift of Yom Ha'atzmaut of Israel, that these days are merged together. You know, we don't have a of Purim without a Tanis Esther. We don't have Yom Ha'atzmaut without Yom HaZikaron. So while Yom Ha'atzmaut is not a holiday originating from the Torah, I think that the best way to really discover Hakaras HaTov and Ahavat Eretz Yisrael, and to make the most of Yom Ha'atzmaut, is through learning about Israel from the Torah. And hopefully from various passages from Tanakh, we'll be able to sharpen our gratitude and increase our love for the gift Hashem has given us. Now, love isn't a given. It has to be something that's worked on, that's invested in. And we can't take our relationships for granted. And it goes with people as well as with the land. And we say about the idea of making Havdalah, Motzei Shabbos, in the bracha of Das, Atachanel Adam Das, we say, Im ein Das Havdalah minayin. If you can't understand the distinction and the difference between, say, Shabbos and the rest of the days of the week, you're not going to understand the magnitude of Shabbos vis-a-vis the days of Chol. So we really have to understand and hone in on what is so unique and special about Israel. Why is it so beloved, in order for us to be able to love it and appreciate it? So let's start with the first Aliyah. The first Aliyah was Avram. Avram Avinu, at the beginning of Parshas Lech, Hashem instructs him, Vayomer Hashem el Avram, Lech lecha me'artzecha u'mimoladecha u'mibeis avicha el ha'aretz asher ar'eka. Hashem tells him to go to the land, leave your birthplace, the house of your father, to the land that I will show you. I'm going to make you into a great name. You're going to be blessed. Everything about you is going to be a blessing. You'll be blessed. Despite those who bless you will be blessed. Those who curse you will be cursed. And all people will receive blessing through you. Vayelech Avram kasher diber alav Hashem, vayelech itolot, va'avram ben chamesh shanim v'shivim shana b'tzeiso mecharan. So Avram went as Hashem had told him, and he took Lot with him. Avram was 75 years old at this time that he left Haran. Vayikach Avram es Sarah ishto, v'eslos et Lot ben achiv. Avram took his wife Sarah, his nephew Lot, v'et kol rechusham, all of their property asher rachshu, that they had amassed, v'es hanefesh asher asu b'charan, v'yitz'u lalechet artza Canaan, v'ayvo artza Canaan. And they left Haran, they departed, and they went towards Eretz Canaan, and they came to Eretz Canaan. And what's very puzzling about these psukim, which is the opening of Parshas Lech Lecha and Parak Yud Bet of Sefer Bereshis, is that when Avram's given the command of Lech Lecha to go, that's Pasuk Aleph. It's not until Pasuk Hey that Hashem actually tells him where his destination is, where he's going, where he's headed. It's only then that we hear about Eretz Canaan. And the question is, why? Why does Hashem delay telling him where he was supposed to head, where he's supposed to head towards? So Rashi says the following. He says, Lo gila lo ha'aretz. This is under Asher Ar'eka that I will show you. Lo gila lo ha'aretz miyad, kedei lechabeva be'einav. Hashem didn't reveal to him immediately where he was headed in order to make it even more beloved to him. And furthermore, latet lo schar al kol dibor v'dibor. And he was getting reward for every delay that he wasn't being told what was going to happen. You know, he's telling him, you're going to be blessed. Those who curse you will be cursed. People will be blessed. Every time, you know, Avram's hanging on every single word. And the longer he hangs on each word and he's waiting, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is increasing his schar for his signing up to do the will of Hashem. And then Rashi continues and he says, we see this elsewhere. It's going to happen again twice in the Parsha of the Akedah and Parak Chaf Bet further on, when at the beginning of the Akedah, Hashem says to him, Kachna es bincha es yechidcha she'ahavta es Yitzchak. Hashem takes a long time before he tells him, oh, who do I want you to take to sacrifice? And he builds it up. And each time he was building it up, Avram was getting more schar. Not only was he getting more schar, it was the whole mitzvah, the whole command was becoming more beloved to him. When does it happen again? Later in the same parak in Akedah Yitzchak, when Hashem says to him where he's going to go. Alachad heharim asher omar elacha. And so one of the mountaintops that I will tell you. Once again, he's not told Tar HaMoriah until later on, and that's until he arrives. And it's the same idea of making something beloved. By delaying and pushing something off, it becomes even more beloved. And by committing to it, you get more schar as it goes on. And he brings in a final example from Yonah as well, when he has to deliver the message to Nineveh, the idea of delay. So it's interesting that Hashem could have done this all straight away. Avram would have gotten a gold star, check, V, right, done, got it. But by delaying and building it all up, Avram Avinu's schar is growing exponentially. And furthermore, his love of everything that's happening is growing tremendously as well. And the Maharal, the Gur Aryeh, on this Rashi, he comments and says the following. He says, "Mipnei shehu mitzta'er achar hamitzvah shelo yada, mipnei kol kach dibur v'dibur shehu mikabel min Hashem yisbarach, mikabel oto me'ahava, v'noten lo schar al kol dibur v'dibur." There was a little bit of like sa'ar over the mitzvah. He doesn't know what's going to happen. He has to toil. He's got to sweat it out a little bit. And because he has to invest more effort, it becomes something that's so much more beloved to him. And the Maharal goes on to say, every single step that Avram's going to take, whether it's to Eretz Canaan, whether it's which child he's going to bring up and who's going to serve as a sacrifice, whether it's which man he's headed towards, every single step, when something is elusive, the harder you work for it, the more the love comes. And this could be something as simple as, a student in school in terms of a test, or in terms of working on a paper, or even something more serious, perhaps in terms of the purchase of a home, something that you have to toil and work much longer on. That the effort that you put into something to attain it, the more beloved it becomes to you. And of course, we see this in relationships as well. Shir HaShirim talks about this and touches upon this, literally about Yagata Matzata in Perek Gimel. Shir HaShirim, Shlomo Melch writes, Am mishkavei b'alilos bikashti, es she'ahava nafshi bikashtiv lo mitzasiv. That the Dod and the Ro are constantly missing each other, each looking for the other one, and they're trying to seek the other one out. Akumana basova va'ir bashvakim u'varchavot avaksha et she'ahava nafshi bikashtiv lo mitzativ. I'm looking for you and I'm not finding you. Mitzauni hashemim hasovim be'er et she'ahava nafshi re'item. And we see this idea. It's very true with relationships as well. The more that you invest in the effort that you put in, and the more that you toil over it, the more that relationship is going to be deepened, and the love is going to grow. And we're, of course, now applying this to the land of Israel. Hashem did not hand Avram Eretz Yisrael on a platter. He had to work for it with each incremental step towards the land, increasing his love. And then when you finally arrive, when you finally complete, when you finally are able to commit to a relationship, everything is so much more poignant and sweet. Rabbi Baruch Simon, one of the Rosh Yeshiva in YU, has a sefer called Imrei Baruch, and on Parshas Lech Lecha, he points out and he says that Avram Avinu basically had implanted in his DNA through this experience of Lech Lecha that his progeny, all of us coming from Avram Avinu, would have this tremendous love for Eretz Yisrael as well. And he quotes Rav Chaim Volozhin on Perkei Avos in Perkei Mishnah Gimel. Rav Chaim Volozhin talks about Asara Nisyonos Nisnasa Avram Avinu Alav Hashalom V'Amad B'Kulam. Avram was tested with 10 trials, and he was able to withstand all 10. Lahodia kama chibaso shel Avram Avinu alav hashalom. What was the result of all these different tests that Avram Avinu went through? Says the Mishnah in Perkei Avos, to show chibaso shel Avram Avinu alav hashalom, how much love he had for each one of those tests, whether it's the Lech Lecha, whether it's the Akedas Yitzchak, whether it's saving Lot, all the different experiences that he had. All these different investments of effort resulted in tremendous love, and therefore, this passion that Avram Avinu had has been passed down in generations to us. Someone that I work with, his brother and sister-in-law made Aliyah literally a week before Pesach. During the pandemic, they had everything go on their lift. They got up, they went, they had to sit in quarantine for a little bit, but there was no stopping them. They were on their way, they were headed here. That type of a drive, that love, that commitment, and that passion is something that's been passed down in our DNA since Avram Avinu. And Rabbi Simon, he brings in the Gemara in Brachos on Daf Hey Amud Aleph, which reads as follows. Tanya Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai Omer, Rashbi says, Shalosh matanot tovot natan HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael. Hashem gifted Israel with 3 presents. V'chulan lo nesanan. Each one wasn't given. Ela al yidei yisurim. You can only attain each one of these 3 gifts through some form of suffering. Elu hein, drum roll, Torah, ve'eretz Yisrael, ve'ha'olam haba. The three presents that Hashem gifted us with that can only be acquired through Yisurin are Torah, the lands of Israel, and the next world, Olam Haba. And it's very interesting that what we're positing now about Israel is the same about Torah and Olam Haba. And the truth is that if indeed Israel is required through suffering, that really could make us become quite resentful, and it could make us start to question, why would I need this? Who needs this headache, right? So therefore, Hashem implanted in us this chiba yisera, this extra love, to counteract such feelings, perhaps of feeling like suffering, or that it's just not worth it. And we see also in terms of Torah, there's a tremendous passion and love for Torah that makes the toil over it so worth it. If Torah was not my preoccupation, I would have been lost in suffering. Even though Torah, Eretz Yisrael, and Olam Haba are all things that we are going to suffer through in some form, it's worth it because we have such a tremendous passion and love for each of these three things. And I would liken it to a teacher that, if there's a child that's misbehaving in class, so, at parent-teacher conferences, the teacher is like bemoaning, what did you give me? What kind of a kid is this? The parent's like, this kid is great. I don't know what your problem is. And I think a lot of times that can come down to, yes, sometimes parents are a little bit blind to what's going on with their children, but I think that sometimes teachers don't necessarily really love the student, and therefore they just want to get through the day, they just want to finish. And I hope I'm not being malsh in my own job, but it's that idea that if you really feel a love and a passion for that student, even when there's difficulty, even when there's troubles, you're going to get through it. And it's really the difference between a teacher who sees their career as a job versus someone who sees it as an existence. And the import of Eretz Yisrael after Avram's arrival, we see later on in Perek Yud Gimel, L'cha iteina ta'aretz hazot, that he's given the gift of the land of Israel. And the truth is, Hashem already had this in mind all the way at the beginning of Bereshis bara Elokim. The very first Rashi on Bereshis bara Elokim is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, why does he start with Bereshis? One of the questions that Rashi asks right at the beginning of the Torah is, why not start with the first mitzvah? This is the book of Taryag mitzvah. Let's start with the first mitzvah. We're not going to get to it till much later. And Rashi says, because Mishum koch masav higid la'amo latek lahem nachlat goyim. Hashem was informing the world, this land of Israel belongs to my children. Hashem created this entire world, and he gives it to who he sees fit. That it's according to his will who he gives it to, and it's according to his will who he may take it from and then give it to afterwards. So there's an article that was written by Yotav Eliach that's entitled Teaching Religious Zionism in High Schools. It's in a journal, Tain Dat. I'm not sure if it's still being printed, but back in the spring 1997, he wrote a whole article about teaching religious Zionism in high schools. And he points out how out of all under the 613 mitzvos that we have, 50% of these mitzvot are connected to Israel. And he says it's either because it has to do with the Beis HaMikdash, it has to do with the soil of the land, it has to do with a functioning Sanhedrin, or it has to do with the government, army, and taxes. That's an incredible statistic, that 50% of all of our mitzvot are contingent upon the lands in Israel. And furthermore, if you look at Shas, if you look at Shisha Sidrei Mishnah, so Kachim and Taharos is completely about the land of Israel. Seder Zram, with the exception of Maseches Bechoros, also all about Israel. Seder Moed, very reliant on Israel because so much has to do with the sacrifices, Aliyah L'Regel, how you conduct yourself in accordance with these Chagim and Moadim in Israel. Then you have the Masechta of Nezikin, and the Masechta of Nezikin is also all about having a functioning Sanhedrin, which is really in Israel. The only Seder that really does not have, is not contingent upon Israel is Nashim, with the exception of Maseches Sota. Almost all others can only be upheld within the borders of Israel. And if we take this a little bit further, how do we see more the love and the passion for Israel? It's expressed in our tefillos. If we take the Shemona Esrei that has 19 brachos, so out of those 19 brachos, we have 12 that all have to do with Israel. 11 are in the Bakashot section, and then you have in the Modim, you have Vashevas Havoda, Lidvir Beisacha, the idea of being able to come back. All these different brachos, the idea that the Shemona Esrei, which is our Amidah, which is the core of our tefillah, is once again all about Israel. It's all about Israel. I remember when I was younger. I was in New Jersey. I was in Elizabeth, and it was right after we had switched over to Mashiv Aruch Merida Geshem on Shmini Atzeres. And we walked out of shul and it was raining. And I said to someone, an older person next to me, I said, "Oh my gosh, this is incredible. We just said Mashiv Haruch, and now look at the rain." And this older Rav said to me, he says, "This is not what you're davening for. It's not about what you're seeing materializing here in the middle of New Jersey. We're davening about Eretz Yisrael." So while that's not necessarily a bracha, it's once again how this idea of our constant awareness and thoughtfulness over Israel. And I don't want to go into I don't want to spend too much time on this, but this week's parsha of Achremos Kedoshim, so towards the end of Parshas Achremos, after it lists all of the arayos, the Torah tells us that you better watch and be careful about not being over on any of these arayos, lest the land, vataki haaretz, the land will spit you out. And Ramban has a really tremendous position based on this pasuk, that he learns out all of the mitzvot that we do, all of Taryag mitzvot. Forget about the 50% can only be upheld in Israel. He says none of them count in Chutz La'aretz. They only are practiced. While you're in Chutz La'aretz, you're practicing for when you come back to Eretz Yisrael. You really can only keep them when you're in Eretz Yisrael. Also, whenever we finish a Haftorah and we make the brachos on the Haftorah, we say, Rachim al Tzion ki beischenu, valuvas nefesh toshia b'mher v'yamenu, samchenu. These are all about coming back to Israel. So we see this significance and this love for Israel, something that is following us throughout our day-to-day, throughout our tefillos, throughout our davening, same thing, throughout the way that we have all the mitzvot and all the different learning that we're doing amongst Shas. So what I'd like to share with you now is a letter that Rav Eliyahu Dessler sent to his Talmidim in 1948, just to give you a little bit of background. Rav Eliyahu Dessler was from Europe. He was from Kelm originally. He was part of the Musar movement, and he moved to Gateshead. He was in England. While he was in England, sometimes he would come to Eretz Yisrael, to the Yeshiva of Panovich in Bnei Brak, and he would serve as like an adjunct mashgiach ruchani. And he had Talmidim from Gateshead who would go and learn in Panovich, and he would sometimes be there for the Yamim Noraim. So in Elul 1948, now think in terms of like what's going on Elul 1948, that's after the Declaration of Independence of November 47. It's after the breakout of the War of Independence. And his Talmidim want to know if he's going to be coming to them again for the Yom Noram. And he apologizes profusely that he will not be able to be there. He had a daughter getting married in America. He had to travel to America. It happens to be subsequently around 4 months later, he does end up making Aliyah in 1948. And he lived out the rest of his life in Panovich and Bnei Brak as the Mashgiach Ruchani until he passed away until 1954. And in his Sefer, in the fifth volume of Mitzvah Me'elio, there's a series of letters. And in the letter that he is responding and saying that he can't make it, and he apologizes, and he has to go to America for the daughter's wedding and everything, he says the following. He says, "Akaver ki tishtadlo b'chol oz lehitchazek kol hayeshiva yachad ki ish echad b'itchaskas rabbi l'Rosh Hashanah ba'aleinu l'tova." I won't be there for the Yom Noram, but as you're preparing for the Yom Noram, Halo hu Yom Hadin Harishon Livchon b'Maasenu Eich Kibalnu et Hanisim Hagluyim Asher Mar'eh Lanu Hashem Yisparach B'li Hefsek B'Shana Zu. He says this is our first opportunity. It's the first Yom Hadin since we've declared the state of Israel and since we are enmeshed in the War of Independence. That how are we receiving these open miracles that Hashem is doing for us? Who would have thought that after being attacked by all surrounding enemies, that we are still lasting, that we're still standing? Shonehu Rosh Hashanah zeh mishal shar hashanim shavru. This Rosh Hashanah of 1948 of Tafshin Chet is vastly different than all the years prior. Ka'etu hacheshbon shel hahitalut haruchniot shayta lanu mar'it hanisim miriat hanisim hagluyim. He says this is the test. How are we responding to all the miracles that we have been witnessing over the past few months? Now is the time to take stock of how are we changed spiritually for the nisim that we have been exposed to. And how tremendous the fear can be. If we haven't learned from what has transpired over the past few months appropriately. It is incumbent upon us to request mercy from Hashem for all the miracles He's providing for us. And we really need to rack up the schuyot in order to be able to keep being recipients of these nisim. And it's beautiful the way that it's beautiful, and it's also awe-inspiring the way that Rav Dessler is stressing how we have to be able to look at what goes on historically. We are past the book of Tanakh, we're past the episodes in Tanakh, but yet we still have Nisim Gluyim happen, and we have to be able to tap into them. We have to be able to recognize them, and woe is the person who can't take notice of those things that are happening. And it's interesting that by having this focus, and by thinking and increasing your love through study, through practice, you can have this recognition. If you don't have that passion, if you don't have that love, you could just dismiss it as something that was on the news one day, and now something else will replace it the next day. I'd like to, at this point, quote something from a sefer called Sefer HaMaor. Sefer HaMaor was authored by my great-grandfather, Rav Elazar Meir Preil, Zichrono Livracha, and he was the Rav in Trenton, New Jersey, and then Elizabeth, New Jersey, and then my Zaidi, Rav Teitz, took over. My great Zaidi had passed away. There was no Rav for a while, and then my Bubby, Basia Preil, Bessie Preil, married my Zaidi, and he took over the community. My great-grandfather's Sefer HaMaor. So in the back of Sefer HaMaor, he quotes some Chedushim from his brother, Rav Yoshua Yosef Preil. And in an article on Parshas Bahar, so this is now my great-great-uncle, Rav Yoshua Yosef Preil, quoted in Sefer HaMaor, he talks about the pasuk towards the beginning of Parshas Bahar, Ki tzavo el haaretz asher ani noten lachem. What happens when we get to Israel? What happens when we're going to arrive in Israel? Now, Parshas Bahar is taking place on Har Sinai, okay? Bahar Sinai, right? And Hashem is instructing Bnei Israel about what happens when you get there. When you arrive there, what's going to happen? So you might think, okay, you got to work the land, and l'avdal l'shamra, and you got to be able to invest and make, and put in effort, and then you'll be able to, hazarim bedima barina yiksaru, right? That you're going to sow, and then you're going to be able to reap benefits. And he says, 1 second, what's the whole mitzvah of that follows ki tavo el haaretz? After this whole idea of coming to the land, asher ani nosen lachem, what is Hashem instructing us in Parshas Bahar? The whole mitzvah is Shemitah. And the concept in the mitzvah of Shemitah is only fulfilled through Shvita. What is Shvita? Like Shabbos, to stop, to take a pause, okay? We have the whole idea of that when it comes to the seventh year, that's the Shnat Shabbaton LaHashem. That's when you stop working. That's when you stop working the field. And it's the ability to demonstrate our bitachon in Hashem. The fact that you'll take a year off, you're just going to go to the Beis Medrash, you're just going to increase your learning. One of our neighbors, very special Rav, Rabbi Ronis, so during Shnat Shemitah, he had his regular schedule. He doesn't have a field. He doesn't have a land. He had his regular schedule of being a Rav of a shul, being a Rav in a yeshiva in Yerushalayim. But he says this is Shnat Shemitah. So what did he do? He went and created an extra day of learning for himself. Friday, which was normal, he went and invested more hours into it. The whole concept of this Shnat Shemitah of this year of rest is not to just kick up and head off to a beach and drink your Mai Tais. It's the idea of being able to invest in your relationship with Hashem, having a real tmimistic relationship with Hashem. In fact, Rav Preil says, he quotes from Tehillim, Hashlech al Hashem yahavcha v'hu yichal kalacha. Don't worry that you're stopping to work the field. What's going to happen? What's going to be? Cast your burden upon Hashem, and He will take care of you. He will supply. He will bankroll you. And Rav Preil references the Rambam, who says, Ki hashkachat Hashem dafka b'mushkach lefi erech dveikut ha'adam be'elokav, which means the less we question Hashem's ways, the more we stand to gain. The more we invest in our hashkacha, in our bitachon and Hashem, the more we'll gain. So while you think, we're going to get into the land and, we're not going to have the money anymore. Now we have to live a more natural type of lifestyle. We have to work the land, till the land. We're going to have to prune the land, all these different mitzvot. All of a sudden, the focus is the mitzvah of Shemitah, which is about ceasing, stop. Invest in your relationship with Hashem. It's not about working. It's about learning. And it's about l'kayem mishpatai elokai ba'aretz, fulfilling that which Hashem has instructed us to keep. V'shavta ha'aretz Shabbat laHashem. And therefore, the whole purpose of V'shavta ha'aretz, when it says sheish shanim tizra satcha, that's for 6 years you're going to plant, you're going to sow your fields. That's not the emphasis, the 6 years. Don't look at, quality. You have to look at quantity. It's all about that year. It's to get to that year of Shnat Shemitah. And if I could borrow this idea and apply it to Shabbos as well. We say in Shabbos Day Kiddush, quoting psukim from Parshas Yisro, from the Aseret Dibros, Sheishis Yamim Tavod V'asisa Kol Mlachtecha V'yom Hashvi Shabbos LaHashem Elokecha. Why are you working 6 days? Not so that you could support your family, not so that you can afford things, not so you could be able to feel that you have done something purposeful. It's to get you to Shabbos. Shabbos and celebrating Shabbos properly is now going to make all those other 6 days worth it. That's what infuses any significance or meaning into those 6 days. And let's take it a step further. Here we are in the middle of counting Sfiras Omer, and we're counting all the, week after week. We're counting all these 7 weeks. But is the counting the be all and end all? No, it's to get to the goal of Matan Torah. It's to get to the purpose of the Kiyum HaTorah, of having the mitzvot. If it was just Sfiras Omer and we're just working on ourselves religiously and spiritually about Yisod this and Chesed Shabbat and all that, we're missing the point. It's to get to the Shvi'i, the Shabbos, the celebration of Matan Torah, of Shavuos. And this is very sobering thoughts, because if we're talking about that, it's all about, coming into Eretz Yisrael is about Kiyum HaMitzvos and increasing our bitachon to Hashem. And we're going to see that the 6 years aren't what's really the emphasis, but it's the Shnat Shabbaton. So too is Shabbos. It's not the 6 days of the week. It's Shabbos Kodesh. So too is Sfiras Omer. It's not the counting. It's what we're aimed toward. It's what we're headed towards. This idea of stopping, of shvita, of pausing, whether it's Shabbos, whether it's the Shabbos of Matan Torah, whatever the shvita it is that we're headed towards. This is sobering because that's exactly what we're all going through right now. We have all stopped life as we know it. We are experiencing something that is so not what we're used to. We're used to being on that rat race, the treadmill, whatever type of analogy you want to use. We're used to being moving, going out there. And all of a sudden we're given this not in the 7th year, it hasn't come up, it's right around the corner though, this shvita, to stop and to have introspection. What is going on? What is happening here? And, here I am speaking from Eretz Yisrael, but we're all in the same boat. We're all in the same boat in the sense that our lives have been thrown off, and we're all in this paused moment. And we're all celebrating Yom HaAtzmaut. It's not Shkia yet. I'm still with you. We're all invested in this day. And if I could quote a Gemara Ksubos, The Gemara in Ksubos on Daf Ayin Hey Amud Aleph says as follows. It says, in the middle of a discussion about in Ksubos about women, all of a sudden a pasuk from Tehillim Pei Zayin is referenced. Uletzion ye amer ish v'ish yulad ba v'hu yechonanaha elyon. So in Parak Pei Zayin of Tehillim, David HaMelech says, and to Sion, to Zion, you will say, this man and that man was born there. V'hu yechonanaha elyon. V'amar Rabbi Miyasha bar Brei, Ben Beno de Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi. So the Rabbi Miyasha, and the reason why we're bringing this now out of context is because he was just quoted earlier in the Gemara. And he says on this pasuk that he questions, why does it say Uletzion ye'amer ish yulad ba? The pasuk should say Uletzion ye'amer ish yulad ba. And in Zion, man was born there. Why does it have to say ish yulad ba? Why does it say this man and that man was born there? So it says Reb Miyasha, the double is she'achad hanolad ba. One references the person who's actually born in Sion. Ve'achad hametzapeh lerota. And then it's also referencing the second ish, that even if you weren't born there, you're called as if you are one who's building it, as if ki'ivu, you were born there. And this Gemara, Rashi explains this distinction and this difference. Then the Gemara goes on to explain, is it talking about the Talmidei Chacham in Bavel or the Talmidei Chacham in Eretz Yisrael, and who has more significance? And it takes an interesting turn. But if we look at this concept and this idea that there are those who live here. Here I am, I'm sitting in Eretz Yisrael. I'm talking to you in Chutz La'aretz, but you're Litzion, Ye'amer ish yulad ba. I'm one ish, you're one ish. And the truth is, I was once the same ish as you. I was not born here. I didn't have the privilege of being born here. My youngest, who was born here, loves to tout that amongst all of her siblings. I'm special because I was the one who was born here. None of you were. Only I was born here. But the truth is, all of us, the idea that we are invested in Eretz Yisrael, that you're taking the time to listen to shiurim and give up of your day, your shvita, that you're sitting down and you're investing in this knowledge and this learning about Eretz Yisrael and the celebration of Yom HaAtzmaut. What you're doing is the ish yulad ba. Now, I started at the beginning, about Poslam B'chvar Chsanya, that we have such positive associations for Boca. And I said that I think part of the purpose of Yom HaAtzmaut is to have a hakar satov for Israel and to also increase our passion and love for Israel. And I would really be remiss if I didn't say the hakar satov that we have for Boca. Many people, it's like, where do you go after Boca? You could only head towards Israel. What are you going to do after that? Unless you're in Rabbanos and then maybe get sucked into another place somewhere else. But really, you have beautiful weather, gorgeous palm trees, terrific people. What are you going to do? Pick up and go to Israel. And before we made Aliyah, there was another family, the Fields, Rabbi Gilad and Hadassah Field. And at their Shal Shidduch before they made Aliyah, so Gilad was speaking, and he says, I really have to express Hakar Satov to America, that it's good to us. It's been wonderful. We're not running away from anything by going to Israel. It's just we're pursuing something. We're running towards something. And we didn't flee America. We didn't flee Boca. I have really wonderful, positive associations with Boca. And what I think we have to keep in mind is the idea of this Avram of Lech Lecha, of where we're headed towards. And even if you're not picking up and sending that lift and booking the next ticket that's available after COVID is over, at the same time, you have that libi b'mazrach v'anochi b'sof ma'arav, that you have that pull of ish yulad ba. So I hope through the studying and learning that we've done today, that we can appreciate this day of Yom HaAtzmaut, and we can increase our Hakar Satov, and we can increase our passion for Eretz Yisrael, and it should make us worthy, in like the words of Rav Dessler, that we should merit even more nisim, that we should really recognize what's incumbent upon us to connect back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and be able to move forward with that. So thank you, and have a good day.
Thank you so much, Ms. Grossman. Really, really phenomenal. I really appreciate, again, you taking the time, sharing your Torah and your enthusiasm. So again, I want to thank you on behalf of everyone who's participating. The next class will be taking place at 12:30 p.m. Boca time with Rabbi Avi Schneider, and we will reconvene then. This chat will stay open, so you can leave this on. and simply join us again at 12:30. Again, I want to give a big thank you and yasher koach to Mrs. Grossman.